Welcome back to the channel, everybody. For those of you who are new and don't already know me, my name is Nate. I'm a recently retired Green Beret out of 1st Special Forces Group. And the purpose of this channel is to give you guys a behind-the-scenes perspective of everything life in U.S. Army Special Forces, okay? So today we are going to do a video that I get asked about a lot, and we're going to talk about schools that Green Berets are either required to go to or that we go to via what type of ODA you might be on, or to advance our skill sets to bring back to the unit, right? So we're going to do this in a sort of a method of, easiest schools to hardest schools, okay? Some of these schools are physically challenging, some of them are mentally challenging, some of them are sort of book learning intelligence challenging, right? So we're going to rack them and stack them, and some of these schools are going to be conventional Army schools, but they're a requirement for Green Berets to go to, okay? So let's jump right in, and again, we're going to start easiest to the absolute most difficult, okay? So coming in at the easiest school, I think, by a pretty significant margin is Airborne school, okay? So yes, tons of people in the military go to Airborne school from every branch, right? It's a classic. It's been around since World War II, okay? And every special operations unit is an Airborne unit, right? So it is a requirement to be Airborne qualified to become a Green Beret, okay? So if you're an 18 X-ray, you'll actually go to Airborne school before you ever even went to selection, right? So now why is it ranked the easiest? Well, in reality is, in Airborne school, if you're just willing to just fall out of a perfectly good airplane attached to a static line, and you can, do your parachute landing fall correctly, which is not difficult, you're gonna pass Airborne school, okay? Physically, I think there's a run test and the standard is super low. From what I remember, it was a long time ago when I went, but everybody should be able to pass Airborne school, right? I don't know if anybody really even failed out of my class. So that comes in sort of as our easiest, and it's a requirement for you to ever even go to become a Green Beret. So next one is going to be sort of Green Beret specific, and it's actually the only one we're going to include that's part of, well, there's two that's part of the qualification course. And that is language school. And I'm including it because it is a huge, actually, time sink. We go for 6 months. So every Green Beret learns a foreign language, okay? Some are much harder than others, but language school is going to be ranked near the easiest because, again, it's you go to class, you learn a foreign language, okay? All day, it's your only job. It's probably the easiest part of the qualification course. Again, I had Chinese Mandarin, which the language is difficult to learn, but standards are not hard to meet. And I don't know anybody in my class that didn't pass language school from an academic standpoint. They make sure you make it through, right? So not difficult. All right, moving on to more skill-based school. So our 18 Bravos, a lot of them are weapons sergeants. They're the ones in charge of the mortar systems, and we organically carry a lot of mortars because we're on a small 12-man team. So a lot of them go to a school called MLOC, another conventional Army school, which teaches them everything mortars, okay? Kind of a challenging school to learn how to operate a mortar system, but once you understand you understand the mortars, the math that goes into them and all that, it's not that challenging of a task, okay? I was cross-trained in mortars for 10 years almost and got pretty decent at it myself with zero training other than my 18 Bravos teaching me, okay? So still all these schools have a little bit of challenge here and there, but it ranks low on the list of total difficulty, okay? Next one is going to be another one out of the Special Forces qualification course, and it's actually, I think, one of the easier schools that we go to. Some people might be surprised to hear this, but that is SEER school, okay? So SEER, as all different branches have different types of SEER schools, it stands for Survive, Evade, Resist, Escape, okay? It's basically our prisoner of war training school. Okay, we do a lot of things in foreign countries without support of our direct line of government a lot of times, so we have to be trained on how to handle if we were to be captured. Okay, I can't really talk a whole lot about SEER school due to sensitivities of it. You can look it up online; it's all out there. But what I will say is it's actually a really fun school. I really enjoyed it. It was probably one of the most fun schools I did in the qualification course. But there's some really shitty parts to it too, right? But I think 100% of the people in my class passed, right? So a lot of this difficulty is also the pass and fail rate, right? So if everyone in the class is passing, I'm not going to rank it very hard on the difficulty scale, okay? So next up, this is sort of a side, it's not really a school, but we have a school that we do as an ODA called SFAWIC, typically every year. It's Special Forces Urban Assaulter course, and it's a CQB, firearms, team-based tactic-esque course. You can technically not pass this, right? But it's more of like you don't pass it, but you're still on your ODA and you have to get retrained and things like that. Really fun school. I like doing it every year, and you do it with your ODA, which makes it really cool. So it's sort of intermediate, right? Easy way, you can get popped for safety violations and stuff like that, but not that difficult of a course. It's primarily focused on getting the ODA ready to go to combat. Next one is going to be in the middle, and that's going to be SOTAC, Special Operations Tactical Air Controller course, which is basically Green Beret's version of a JTAC, okay? Person who guides in munitions from aircraft, okay? I went to the school. I was never very good at it, but I passed first try. There's zero physical fitness involved. It's an all sort of skill-based school you go to specifically learn how to manage aircraft. So yeah, it's somewhat challenging for sure in doing that. Again, I was never great at it. Actually keeping your qualifications up after the school is much more difficult than the school itself. Okay, so it's going to rank right there in the middle as a no physicality, kind of fairly challenging in the sort of book learning educational style. All right. Now moving into the, or actually, sorry, we got to go back. We're going to go back one before SEER school is actually going to be military free fall school, Halo school. This is quite a few guys actually fail this because they can't end up controlling their bodies in the air, but as a school, it's not a difficult school, okay? It's actually the most fun school, I think, in the military. It's super laid back, super chill. The whole point is to learn how to skydive. Some people, unfortunately, can't figure it out and they don't pass the course, but it's got a pretty high pass rate and you're skydiving, guys. Like, it's fun, right? So not going to be that high up on the list of most difficult. Moving down to the next sort of ODA type of school that you could go to if you're on a mountain team. Okay, so I was on a dive team, mountain team, and Halo team, which is kind of cool. I was I had that much team time to sort of get time on 3 different types of teams. Okay, so I have a good frame of reference for all these different ODA-based teams, right? So mountain team has 3 actually levels of school that go into it. Okay, mountain level 3, 2, 1. The highest being the easiest, 1 being the most challenging, okay? And I was mountain level 3 qualified. I never went to 2 or 1 because it was the least amount of time I spent on any of the ODAs was on a mountain team, right? But, mountaineering is not easy, guys. I mean, some of the stuff, especially if you're a lead climber and you're the one setting in pro and doing these things, it's very, very challenging. Those of you that rock climb, I'm sure know it's not an easy job. And for me, I didn't have the best body for it. I'm about 6'2", 235 pounds. Not really built like a rock climber. So I found it very challenging. And watching the guys do some of the crazy stuff in lead climbing is pretty scary, right? So it's actually going to rate pretty high. And the level 1 course, they do some pretty wild stuff to have to be able to pass that. So it's actually ranked pretty high in overall difficulty on the list, right? So right near that, and this one could actually probably be below mountaineering school, maybe right next to it, is going to be CivSec, Special Forces Sniper School, okay? There's a couple different levels of CivSec you can go to, but precision shooting is not easy, guys. There's a lot of math involved. It's a very high skill level for those of you who shoot know that. And yeah, it's one of the more technically challenging skills in the U.S. military by far. So the guys that are able to go to that and pass that and become, level 1 sniper qualified, very, very impressive. A lot of guys don't make it through that course. So we're getting near the highest difficulty, right? That's a very technical based difficulty. Obviously, physical fitness challenges, things like that are not difficult there, but from a technical perspective, skill-based, very, very difficult school, okay? As we get near the, I'm trying to rifle through these, right? Because we've got about 12 or 13 of these schools. We go to a lot of schools. Top of the most difficult schools, okay? Ranger School. Welcome to the, pardon my language, welcome to the suck, okay? Ranger School is not necessarily the most technically difficult, the most skill difficult, anything like that. Anybody can really go to Ranger School, but man, it sucks, okay? I didn't go to Ranger School, but we have Squad Unit Tactics, which is basically our version of Ranger School, so we all sort of get the experience of it. And for me, Squad Unit Tactics was the hardest part of the Special Forces qualification course for me, by far. So, and it was the shittiest course to go through. So, Ranger School, props to every dude out there with a Ranger tab. By the time I was willing to go, I was already a couple knee surgeries deep, mid-30s, and said, no thanks, not for me, right? I'm not tough enough for that anymore. So, hats off to all the, Ranger School graduates out there. Okay, next is going to be actually technically a Special Forces qualification course school, but it's going to be SOCMIS, okay? It's going to be the extra schooling that our 18 Deltas go to. So they go, it's a Special Operation Combat Medics course. So Navy SEALs, PJs, I believe PJs, all the Special Operations Medics go to this course, and it's a year-long course, and it's, when I went through, heavy fail rate, okay? This is extremely tough. I mean, it's your high-level medicine stuff, really high-level medicine stuff, right? Not for everybody, really high book learning, things like that. Very, very difficult school. So props to all the 18 Deltas who do a whole extra year in the Special Forces qualification course to be able to become medics, right? All right, and then we're going to get into, my opinion, the most challenging and difficult school in the U.S. military, or at least in the Army, and that is CDQC, okay? That is dive school, all right? Oh, man, the water is the great equalizer, guys. I can tell you, it's the highest, and it's not just, the problem is it's not just dive school, okay? You also have to go to a school called MAC beforehand, which is typically 3 weeks, the Maritime Assessment course. You have to pass that just to be able to go to dive school, and MAC is horrible, okay? I had to do it multiple times, and it's basically where you learn how to do all the events that basically are the test of day one of dive school. So, and there's nothing quite like getting pushed to the point of drowning, blacking out underwater. I mean, it is, again, the great equalizer. You see some of the toughest dudes just immediately quit day one of MAC. Okay, MAC has an extremely low pass rate. Typically less than half the class, each class actually passes, and usually most people quit on day or 1 or 2, okay? The events at MAC are not that challenging once you learn how to do them, but they're very challenging to learn how to do, okay? It took me a long time to be able to figure out how to pass all the events at MAC. The first time I went, I got injured, tore my meniscus, so it sucks. Dive school, it's, dive school is kind of upfront shitty, right? Where you guys can look up dive school. I'm actually going to do a podcast internally here, sort of a sit down with me and my former teammate who's also an 18 Echo when we were on the dive team together, because he lives in Oregon too. It's going to be cool. So we'll really get into the dive teams there. But it's also why BUDS and Navy SEAL training is just so difficult and so hard. The water is the worst, guys. It really is the most challenging thing to deal with, okay? It's physically difficult school, it's mentally difficult school, technically difficult school. All of the things all these schools have, it's got all of them on the difficulty scale, and it's pumped up to the max, okay? The final test that sort of gets you going out of the first week, called One Man. Oof, if you guys watch, you can watch videos of that, where you're basically underwater, blacked out mask, and your instructors are tying your hoses up behind your back on your tanks, and you're holding your breath as you're getting wrestled through, and trying not to black out as you fix your stuff. It's rough, guys. That's why not very many people make it to a dive team, right? Or go through dive school. So, yeah, so quick honorable mentions you guys might be wondering about or ask in the comment section, okay? So big ones in the conventional Army, Sapper School, Air Assault School. So very, very common schools. Tons of guys I know had those schools and then became Green Berets, but I don't know hardly anybody who has gone to those schools after having become a Green Beret, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's why I don't include those. Pathfinder is another one. I know lots of guys who were Pathfinder qualified and then got to group. I don't really know many guys who went to Pathfinder school after being in group, okay? And then, yeah, so that's going to wrap up our list. This one was a little bit longer, I know, but again, guys, we go to a ton of different schools, and there's probably a bunch more you guys are going to put in the comment section that I may have not thought about or forgotten. So if you're wondering about some, put it in the comment section. If I have any frame of reference, I will let you guys know. All right, take care.